So I finally had a chance to look at all the Scarlet and Violet Black Bolt and White Flare cards that just were released, and it's kind of underwhelming. It's kind of interesting that they decided to do two sets in one go. Uh, I don't know. It's just a way for them to split the cards up and release more cards possibly. But I finally had a chance to look at all the cards that they released, and there's some interesting ones in here. There's definitely a lot of like bulk stuff that's definitely going to go into just the bulk bins at stores and stuff like that. And there's only a few like real good cards, I guess. But I guess that's the same for most sets. So there's a few notable cards that I could think could be interesting for deck building in certain case scenarios, I suppose. So first off, let's get into some of the trainer cards. So of course, here on the left, I've got the line dividing this up. We've got all the Black Bolt cards, and on the right, it's going to be the White Flare cards. So the trainer cards, the first notable things that I want to point out here is the reprint of Pokegear and Energy Retrieval. I definitely think that they need to get more of these out into the market because this card is really good, and there aren't enough of them out there in for people to buy. It's kind of a hard card to find, and Energy Retrieval is just a good card, I think. And yeah, for supporters, this ends plan is kind of interesting. Move 2 energies from your bench Pokemon to your active Pokemon. I could see this used in certain cases, but for most decks, being able to do that isn't really super important because you'd need to get those energies out, and then why aren't those already on a Pokemon that you have like set up and stuff? So, and then Hilda, search your deck for an evolution Pokemon and an energy card. It kind of reminds me of Irida or Arven, where it does two things. So in this case, an evolution Pokemon and an energy. Reveal them, put them in your hand, then shuffle your deck. Or even like Colress's Tenacity, where it searches for a stadium in energy. So I can see where this could get used a few times in different decks for different use cases. Cool Tool Scrapper. This card is definitely going to be one of the most important cards that's going to be used here soon. Discarding tools. We haven't had that ability in the TCG for a little while, so I think that a lot of people are going to start adding that into the decks. Of course, Ignition Energy. Anytime we get double or triple energies, these cards are going to get used. In this case, it's if this card is attached to an evolution Pokemon, it provides 3 energies. But of course, you have to discard this at the end of your turn. So, temporary ignition, but worth it for some cards. Couple of tools here that are notable: Air Balloon, 2 less retreat cost, Brave Bengal, plus 30 damage for Pokemon that don't have rule boxes, 2 Pokemon that have rule boxes. So yeah. So let's get into on the Black Bolt side, looking at some of the cards that were released. So for starters, we've got this Superior EX. Mostly it's the ability here. Attacks used by your Pokemon do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So if you have multiple of these stacked up, your Pokemon's attacks deal more damage. Kind of interesting. You may search your deck for up to 3 cards and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. For 4 energies, that costs a lot. Doesn't deal a lot of damage, but then you get a search for 3 cards. That could be good on a Stage 2 Pokemon. I don't know. I guess his attack increases his own attack, right? Attacks used by your Pokemon do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So I guess technically you're dealing 170 damage with this Superior. He's got a decent amount of HP, 320. It's a lot of HP. Interesting Pokemon. I don't know where this could be used for certain decks. It could be interesting. Let's see. In order to look at this Karrablast, we also have to look at what's over here on the other side. So a Karrablast, if you have a Shelmet in play, which was released in the other set, you can evolve it the turn that you play it. So this Excalibur was released in the set. 90 damage for 1 energy, and it does 30 damage to itself. Not so great, but then they also released previously this one for 2 energies, 120 damage during next turn. This Pokemon can't attack. So I don't really see a reason why you'd want to evolve. Like, neither of these Pokemon are great. So evolving Karrablast fast isn't necessarily helpful. But Shelmet, he has an attacker using this Excelgor that they released previously in Journey Together. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused and poisoned, and you switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. So that could be interesting. It'd be interesting if they had released a Excalibur that was like useful with this, where you could like retreat into the guy and have some mechanic happen there. And so basically, if you have Karrablast and Shelmet in play, they can evolve each other faster, but there's not really a point in evolving faster when you don't have other Pokemon that you want to evolve into. So this Seismitoad is interesting. This attack does 70 more damage for each Pokemon that in play that has the round attack. So the name of the attack is round, and it can deal some damage, but for 3 energies, I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. I did a quick look up. There's 4 Pokemon that they've ever released before that have had the round attack, and so, but neither of these guys are really good at all either. So I don't know. Yeah, if you want to build a round attack deck, you could with the Seismitoad line and the Exploud line if you wanted. Carracosta, he's got an interesting ability. Prevent all damage from effects and attacks done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon that have any damage, any special energies attacks. So he can prevent damage. There's the previous Carracosta that they released that increases your Pokemon's HP by 40, and that could be interesting with this deck. I think the real hitting point with this deck is actually in his Stage 1 Tirtuga. This attack does 30 damage for each item card in your opponent's discard pile. So we've seen this mechanic used in the past where late game this can deal a lot of damage, which could be interesting. And so being able to punish your opponent's opponent for having lots of item cards in their discard pile, that's a potential. Let's see. This Kyurem EX is interesting. This attack does 10 damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon for each prize card your opponent has taken. So if you do this attack and your opponent's winning, they've got 1 prize left, then when you do this attack, you're also dealing 50 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Kind of interesting. So use like Dusknoir, allow your opponent to draw those prize cards, and then you're attacking with your Kyurem EX. Could be an interesting strategy. The Alomomola, say it right. This has an interesting ability. I could see where you could use this in some cases. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may put a basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less from your discard pile into your bench. So it allows you to get your basic Pokemon back from your discard pile. You'd have to like get Alomomola back from or into the active spot and then like retreat it around. But I could see some cases where like you start your Pokemon dies, you bring this guy up, you get your Pokemon back from the discard pile, and then evolve it or something. There might be some use case there where you need those Pokemon with 70 HP. Electric and Electros. So both of these are the new cards, and this Electric is what I'm looking at. Once during your turn, you may attach a basic Electric Energy card from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. We saw a Mareep with this ability a while back that was very good. Or it wasn't Mareep, it was his evolution. But anyway, so I was looking, is there an Electros? So this is the one that was released in this set. This is previous. Neither of these are really good attackers, and so if you're really putting this in your deck, you're putting in it for this ability. Like they're okay. They can paralyze your opponent's Pokemon and stuff and deal some damage, and I could see some versions of decks playing this, but we already have a lot of different ways to accelerate electric energies, and so maybe this is just another way, but I don't know if it's necessarily better than what we already have in Standard right now. Looking at the card pool, this Mersharna, you may search your deck for any number of Fennel cards, reveal them and put them in your hand, then shuffle your deck. So I had to figure out what Fennel does right here. Fennel, supporter card, heal 40 damage from each of your Pokemon. Okay, really not, that's not going to be used ever. Okay, moving on, right? So there's this Ranunculus. Well, let's look at his middle stage first. Duosion. Cellular Evolution and then Cellular Ascension. Similar attacks that do similar things. Search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon to evolve it, then shuffle your deck. This one does more. For each of your bench Pokemon, search your deck for a card that evolves from that Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon to evolve it. I could see where if someone is trying to evolve a lot, this could be interesting. I always like to look at other versions of cards that are in standard. This Ranunculus has an interesting ability to look at the top 8 cards of your deck. You may put any number of Pokemon you find there onto your bench. So in this case, the Ranunculus here, you'd have to like evolve into all of the Pokemon, whereas this other one, you could just get the stage 2 Pokemon straight onto your bench without actually having to evolve into them. Yeah, I don't see anybody actually ever playing these, even though they're kind of interesting abilities. The Meloetta EX. Yes, this is a great card. I could see some cases that somebody might be able to use this. If you go first, this Pokemon can attack during your first turn. We've seen this on a few different Pokemon cards. In this case, this Pokemon could take advantage of Technical Machine Evolution or Turbo Energize on the first turn. However, the attack of Meloetta isn't all that great later. During your next turn, this Pokemon's Echoed Voice attack does 80 more damage. So you're dealing 30 damage the first time. Later, then you're dealing 120, right? Yeah. For 1 energy, it just isn't good enough. Yeah. Let's see. I've been trying to figure out how we could use this Drillbur better. This one, when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 3 basic fighting energy cards and discard them. There's a lot of fighting Pokemon and cards that do stuff with fighting energies from the discard pile. So this Drillbur is able to do that, but we haven't had a good Drillbur that can evolve into something good. So now we have a good extra Drill EX that you could play this Drillbur on your bench and then evolve it and have an actual good attacker. He's got 2 attacks, 2 energies, and 3 energies. Piercing Drill for 60. This attack also does 60 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that already has any damage counters on it. Interesting. And Rock Tumble for 200, and it's not affected by resistance. So pretty good attacker. I don't know which deck, like where this could fit well, but somebody could probably figure that out. Conkeldurr, I just really like this Pokemon just for the ability here. This Pokemon gets 40 HP for each fighting energy attached to it. You could seriously like pump this guy up. But I didn't include any of his de-evolutions. I looked up old versions and like the attack just isn't good enough for what this ability is. Flip 2 coins, this attack does 50 more damage for each head. So the max damage you're going to be dealing is 200 damage, but it's likely that you're only going to be dealing 100 or 150. And so yeah, you have a tank that could take a lot of damage because he's got a lot of HP, but you're not dealing a lot of damage. But we'll see what people play with and do with this, because I could imagine putting him with like Garganacl, who allows you to heal 20 damage in between turns, and so by the time it comes around to your turn, you've healed 40 damage, and so you just always heal him and you just slowly chip away at your opponent's Pokemon, possibly. I don't know. Let's see. So I love these mechanics. If this Pokemon has full HP and it would be knocked out, so it's similar to like what the Pikachu EX has. So if he's at full HP and he's knocked out, his remaining HP becomes 10. It's just kind of an interesting mechanic. The way that your opponent can get around this, though, is like if they have a Monkey Dory or some way just to put a little bit of damage and then they can knock it out, then this doesn't come into effect. And so I was looking to see if like there's other cards that could work with this. Ultimately, this Dweeble is probably better because it's got 70 HP over 60, but you've got this Dweeble. Search your deck for a card that evolves from this Pokemon and put it onto this Pokemon to evolve it. So then you get right into Crustle, and then he's got this ability right away. Or I guess Crustle, he's like a wall Pokemon here because of this, but you've also got this Crustle, which prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX. So if they're running EX Pokemon, you evolve into this Crustle. If they're running anything else, you evolve into this one. But where I thought this could be useful is if you have a Relicanth and you can use the attacks of your basic Pokemon, the de-evolutions. So Crustle could have used this attack. So this attack does 100 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So if they do have damage counters on this guy, you could use this attack and deal damage, but then that kind of negates if he's at full HP. And so really, like, the mechanic may not really work well, but maybe you use this Crustle with this Dweeble underneath and use Relicanth so you can attack, because Relicanth allows you to use the attacks. So you could use this Crustle and use Flail underneath. So there's an option there. And for 1 energy, maybe you're dealing more damage than this because you've got 150 HP, but you'd have to have those damage counters on him somehow. Of course, Genesect, you've probably seen this. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 2 evolution metal Pokemon, reveal them and put them into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. I can think of a lot of good metal decks that could use this mechanic. He's a basic Pokemon with 220 HP, and his attack's not all that bad. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. It's just a matter of getting those 3 energies on it, but there's ways to do that. Some of the metal decks, there's a lot of metal Pokemon that allow you to get those energies out faster. So I'm thinking like, what is it? Matang is an evolution Pokemon that you'd want to get out. He accelerates energies. You've got, what's his name? The bridge guy. I can't remember his name. When you play him, you search your deck for 2, or search your discard pile for 2 energies, metal energies, and attach them to your bench Pokemon. So I could see Genesect getting a lot of play here really quickly. I put this guy in here. Haxorus has an interesting ability. So, well, first of all, Axew here. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards, reveal them, put in your hand, then shuffle your deck. Always good for 1 energy in like some basic standard things to be able to do that. But then it really is interesting because Haxorus, if your opponent's active Pokemon is a basic Pokemon, it is knocked out. So he can knock out basic Pokemon. But then Crosscut, if your opponent's Pokemon is an evolution, it does 80 more damage. So you're doing 160 damage for 2 energies. Interesting. So he has an attack for evolution Pokemon and an attack for basic Pokemon. So I can see this line being used possibly. There's another Haxorus that's in standard that has some similar attacks where it knocks out your opponent's Pokemon if they have a special energy. I'm actually very excited about this line here. So we're getting another Unfezant, but it's too bad we haven't gotten our Unfezant EX yet, because we have a reference with this Pidove. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon's remaining HP is 30 or less, you may search your deck for an Unfezant or Unfezant EX and put it onto this Pidove to evolve it. Then shuffle your deck. So basically, turn 1, what you would do is use the Mountain Stadium card, I can't remember what it's called, where when you attach an energy, you deal damage, 20 damage to the Pokemon, so that would trigger this ability and get him down to 30 HP or less, and then you can go search your deck for an Unfezant. So then you could go search for this Unfezant. You've already got an energy on it. It was an ability that triggered the evolution, so now you can use add-on to draw 4 cards on your first turn. So really all you need is this Pidove, that Stadium, and an energy. But is this Unfezant with this draw 4 cards and then flip a coin of heads during your opponent's next turn prevent all damage from effects and attacks done to this Pokemon? So he's always doing 120 damage, and you have the ability here, potential 50-50 chance of preventing all damage. I feel like this Unfezant's pretty good. This Unfezant is good as well because you can put 2 energies attached to your opponent's active Pokemon into their hand, so you're slowing down their energy acceleration. So I could see where using this Pidove with this Unfezant could be an interesting, like, quick attack, draw cards, just like attack a few times, setup type of mechanic. Yeah, but I'm waiting to see when we get that Unfezant EX, because I want one for this guy. Just give us that Unfezant EX Pokemon. So that's all the cards from what was this, Black Bolt on this side? Yeah, Black Bolt. So let's start looking at White Flare now. So over on White Flare's side, starting us out, we've got another Grass Energy Accelerator guy. So Whimsicott EX, search your deck for up to 3 basic Pokemon cards, attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like, then shuffle your deck. So just another way to accelerate more energies. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of grass decks that could utilize that quick mechanic. And then this Wondrous Cotton attack is interesting because it works well with Budew. If you start the game with Budew and prevent them from playing any item cards, then on your turn when you evolve this guy, your opponent reveals their hand. This attack does 50 damage for each trainer card you find there. If they have 2 trainer cards, that's 100 damage. If they have 3, 4, 5, like, you could be dealing some serious damage. And for 1 energy, that's pretty good, I would say. And if you can do an Iono early game and they're drawing into a new hand of 5 or 6, the chances of them drawing lots of trainer cards could be fairly good. The nice thing about this Whimsicott, he doesn't have an ability, and so a Salvatore play here could be very good. Play Cottony, use Salvatore, evolve it on your first turn, 1 energy, attack, Wondrous Cotton. On your first turn, how much damage are you going to be dealing, right? You could be dealing quite a bit there. So don't forget that Salvatore does exist in this standard format where you're allowed to evolve a Pokemon, any Pokemon that doesn't have an ability, and this includes EX Pokemon, and you could do that on your first turn. And because he's got 1 energy, that's all you need to be able to attack. So let's see, we already talked about Shelmet, so we'll keep going. Emboar here, I didn't realize, I've known about this Pokemon, but I always look out for which Pokemon are pigs because my son really likes pigs, and trying to teach him the game, he might actually like this guy, Tepig. But Emboar, as often as during a turn, you may attach a basic Fire Energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. Fire Energy, you can attach it to any of your Pokemon. He's a stage 2, so it'd be hard to get him out, and his attack doesn't really do much. 120 damage for 4 energy. So within 2 turns, he's attacking using his own ability, but yeah. Heatmor, Lightning Catch. This is interesting. Search your deck for up to 3 in any combination of Fire Pokemon and basic Fire Energy cards. Reveal them and put them in your hand. Trying to think of what Fire decks could utilize faster acceleration, finding those Pokemon and getting them out. Just kind of interesting mechanic. Let's see, Samurott. This card, I bet, will get used. I bet people will play this. So, his attack, first of all, it reminds me a lot of Kingdra here. I've actually built a deck using this Kingdra, so he does 50 more damage for each energy attached to him. So if you have a Bascalibur line and you're accelerating tons of energies down, he can deal a lot of damage. And he has a good ability. Once during your turn, you may switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. If you do, switch out your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench. Yeah, that could be very good. You're able to control who's in the active position, and you have a good attacker for lots of damage. Interesting. So I could see this being used as a single prize deck where you're just attacking for your single prizers. Even if you're attaching energy on him just naturally, getting 2 or 3 energies as a single prizer, that could be fairly good. And if you're controlling where your opponent's Pokemon are, that could be pretty good. Let's see, this Galvantula is interesting. Discard all electric energies from this Pokemon. This attack does 50 damage for each card you discarded in this way. So, in order to deal 200 damage, you would need 4 energies on him. But then you're discarding all the energies, so then you'd have to figure out a way to accelerate those energies back onto him. So my first thought was, well, what if you, for turn 1, use this Joltik to accelerate your electric energies? But I don't know. The potential's there. It's just probably too slow. There's probably not enough ways to accelerate energies. And as we saw, there is a way to accelerate energies using electric. But yeah, I think that it's just not fast enough. And he's only got 90 HP, so he's not really a tank of any kind. He can deal probably a lot of damage, but I don't know. I'd have to play test this and see if it's actually viable or not. Kofagrigus, this extended damage Regus. Move all damage counters from one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to one of your benched Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Yeah, that could be good. We've seen that ability on other Pokemon before. That could be good. I don't know. We've seen it on other cards. It doesn't get used all that often. I really like this artwork, though. Gothitelle. Once during turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may have your opponent shuffle their hand into their deck and draw 3 cards. So you're basically giving your opponent 3 cards. That could be good. As a stage 2, the attack isn't all that great. It can deal, what is that, 90 plus 90? If you have the same number of cards in your hand as your opponent. I don't really see this being used all that much. Jellicent. I could see this Pokemon getting used. So Frillish has a similar attack as Badoo. For 1 energy, 20 damage during your opponent's next turn. They can't play any item cards from their hand. So just another Pokemon that does the same thing as Badoo. However, 1 energy, right? That's 100% more energies than Badoo uses. But you want that energy on it because when you evolve into Jellicent EX, it has a similar ability. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, your opponent can't play any item cards or Pokemon tool cards from their hand. And then Power Press 80 plus, if this Pokemon has at least 2 extra energies attached, it does another 80 damage, so you need 4 energies. So getting that 4 energies might not be a lot. That's a lot to be able to deal 180 damage or 160 damage. But really this line is worth it for that Itchy Pollen ability. Archeops. I have been looking for a Pokemon that does this for a while. We have seen a lot of Pokemon that devolve your opponent's Pokemon, but it's always as part of an attack. So Archeops, once during this Ancient Wing attack, once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may devolve one of your opponent's evolved Pokemon by putting the highest stage evolution card on it into your opponent's hand. Okay, so this could get really awesome because you can get Archeops into the active spot, devolve one of your opponent's Pokemon, then retreat him or switch him out again, and then attack. Maybe with Samura, use Samura as your attacker in this case. Like this, I can see where this could get fairly good. The thing about devolving your opponent's Pokemon, though, that I've realized is if they have an EX, you're devolving it into their non-EX form, and so you're not taking advantage of the prize mapping possibly. But yeah, this could be good. Ooh, or even with they're going to be releasing the Mega Evolution Pokemon. Yeah, that could be pretty good against those. So the hard thing with Archeops, of course, is it's going to be slow because you're having to get the item card out, and it's always slower to evolve from an item Pokemon. But yeah, I could see this being used for some certain decks and being played with, something that I would want to play with because I like this mechanic. Maybe do this and then attack with other Pokemon like who's it? Espeon does this similar attack where it devolves your opponent's Pokemon. There's the I can't remember his name. It's just with an A. Anyway, I'm thinking of Archeops, but that's not the guy's name. Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl devolves your opponent's Pokemon. So yeah, some interesting mechanic here with Archeops. Let's see. Leopard, I added this guy. It's mostly for Purloin here. Invite Evil. Search your deck for up to 3 dark Pokemon, reveal them, and put them into your hand. I could see this being used for something, but allow you to search for 3 dark Pokemon. Let's see. There's a new Trubbish in the line. I really like this artwork better than the old Trubbish. I've been playing with a Trubbish deck, and so that's why I pulled this guy out. And the attacks on Trubbish and Garbodor just aren't good this version. So let's see, Hydreigon EX. This is interesting. Anytime that you're able to draw extra prize cards, I'm always looking at that. If your opponent's basic Pokemon, of course it's got to be a basic Pokemon, is knocked out by damage from attack used by this Pokemon, take 1 more prize card. Interesting. Combine that with Archeops to devolve and then make sure they're in their basic Pokemon. So this could get some play. I don't know if it's any much better than the Hydreigon EX, the Terra version that can splash damage around. That one's very good, but I could see this getting some use somewhere. Watchdog. Does anybody actually like this guy? He's kind of interesting. The interesting thing with this guy, so he's a colorless Pokemon, so you could search him out for with like Rotom or something like that if you wanted to. But this Focus Energy attack is interesting because so you use Focus Energy. I mean, first of all, this attack is going to be way slow. Don't build a deck using this. This is bad. I just want to look at it because it's kind of interesting. So first of all, you evolve. On your second turn, get your energy down, use Focus Energy. Then on your third turn, you can use Hyper Fang for a 240 damage. There's ways you could accelerate this. I guess. Oh, yeah. I didn't realize because you still have to flip a coin, even if it's doing the 240 damage. So that's actually even worse because then it's behind a coin flip. So in order so Focus Energy, you have a chance of doing 240 damage, but you still have to flip a coin and you might do nothing. Not so great. Lots of damage for a small guy, but really procurement here. Search your deck for an item card. That's pretty good. But don't play this. This isn't going to be good. Yeah, you can do lots of damage, but you're still stuck behind that coin flip. Anytime you're stuck behind a coin flip, yeah. Just an interesting card. So that's my first look at all the decent cards from Black Bolt and White Flare. Of course, there were more cards in the set, and there might be some that I didn't include on this list that might turn out being decent cards. But yeah, like I said, there's only a few cards in this, among all of these that are like actually really quite good cards, like the Samurott, Electric, accelerating those electric energies, the Jellicent. So yeah. So let me know what you thought about some of these cards, if you're going to be playing some of them, and what other cards you would combine them with. Like I showed on here, there's a few cards that I pulled out that were from old sets that you could build with. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this new set and what cards that you're most excited for. I think out of all of these cards, what am I most excited for? Probably the Samurott. Samurott's one of my favorite Pokemon. He's kind of cool, so... yeah, I think that this mechanic with this damage output could be very seriously kind of cool. So, yeah, let me know what you think.